Hey, and welcome back to JBC English Learning Academy. My name is Leura, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you truly love your parents, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep watching the video, and comment on how much you love parents. Your support truly helps this channel grow. Alright, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. I want to tell you a simple story today, a story that will guide you into a new way of learning, a story that feels soft, warm, slow, and friendly, just like a peaceful voice sitting beside you, helping you grow step by step. And as you listen, I want you to imagine that you are walking through this story, breathing with it, moving with it, understanding it with your whole mind, because today, inside this first part of our long journey, we will explore how learning faster and smarter is not about pressure, not about stress, not about memorizing everything quickly, but about changing the way you see learning, the way you feel learning, and the way you talk to yourself when you learn. So imagine this. You wake up one morning and you feel a small whisper inside you saying, I want to learn something new. I want to get better. I want to grow. It is not loud. It is not powerful. But it is honest. And maybe this whisper is why you are here, listening to English, learning English, trying to improve the way you speak or understand this language, and maybe you want to speak more confidently, or maybe you want to understand movies or conversations. Or maybe you want a better job, a better life, or maybe you just want to feel proud of yourself. Whatever your reason is, it begins with that small whisper, and this story begins with that whisper too. Now imagine that you get out of bed and the world is quiet, and you think about all the times you tried to learn something and it felt hard, maybe too hard, maybe confusing, maybe slow. Maybe you studied for hours and felt like nothing stayed in your mind. Maybe you forgot new words. Maybe you felt shy to speak. Maybe you felt afraid to make mistakes. And in that moment, you wonder, is there a smarter way? Is there a faster way? Is there a way that does not make me feel tired? And the beautiful truth is yes, there is. But the first step is not about techniques or methods or schedules. The first step is about your story, your relationship with learning, because every time you try to learn something new, you begin a new story. And today, your story is shifting. Today, your story is changing direction. You might not feel it yet, but something inside you is slowly opening, like a door that has been closed for a long time, and now it is moving softly, slowly, but surely. When we try to learn something faster, the biggest challenge is not the subject. The biggest challenge is not English. The biggest challenge is not memory. The biggest challenge is the mind telling us, this is too hard. This is too slow, I am not smart enough, or maybe I cannot do this. These little sentences act like small stones in your path, and every time you step forward, you feel them under your feet. And so many learners give up because they think the stones are too many, but the real problem is not the stones, it is that no one teaches us how to walk around them. No one teaches us how to enjoy the walk. And so today, in this story, I want to walk with you, slowly and patiently, showing you not only how to learn English faster, but how to learn anything faster, because all learning begins inside the same place, your mind and your heart. Now imagine you are walking out of your home, and the morning air feels fresh, and as you step outside, you notice that your mind is already thinking about the things you want to learn. Maybe you think about how fast some people learn. Maybe you wonder why some people remember everything, speak well, understand quickly, and stay motivated every day. Maybe you look at them and think, why can't I be like that? But here is the truth that most people never see. Fast learners are not fast because they are smarter. They're fast because they learned how to learn. They understand the rhythm of their own mind. They know what helps them focus. They know what helps them remember. They know what helps them stay calm. They know how to break big problems into small steps. And you can learn these things too. You can learn how to learn, and when you do, everything becomes easier, your mind becomes lighter, and learning becomes something you enjoy instead of something that exhausts you. As you keep walking in this story, imagine you are moving down a quiet street, and you begin thinking about all the times you felt frustrated while learning English. Maybe you opened a book and felt lost. Maybe you tried to listen to a video and understood only a little. Maybe you wanted to speak, but your mind went blank. These moments feel heavy, like thick clouds in your mind. But learning faster begins when you stop fighting these clouds and instead learn how to walk through them. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to know everything. You simply need to take one step, one moment, one small improvement at a time. And so our challenge begins. How do we learn faster? How do we work smarter, not harder? And most importantly, how do we use English in a way that feels natural and friendly to the mind? The first big challenge in learning faster is the feeling of I have to do everything now. Many learners feel this pressure. They believe they must learn hundreds of words quickly, understand every grammar rule, speak perfectly, listen perfectly, read perfectly, and never make mistakes. This pressure destroys motivation. It makes the mind tired. It makes learning painful. But imagine if learning was not a race. Imagine if learning was a walk through a quiet forest, where each word you learn is like a leaf you find along the path, and you do not rush. You do not push yourself too hard. You simply pick up one leaf at a time and enjoy the sound of your own footsteps. This simple shift from rushing to walking changes everything. Now imagine you are still walking down that street and suddenly you see a small cafe on the corner. You enter. The place is empty, quiet, with warm light and soft music. You sit near the window and you think about your learning journey. Here, inside this peaceful space, you begin to explore the idea of learning faster from a new angle. What if learning faster does not mean doing more? What if learning faster means doing less, but doing it better? What if learning smarter means repeating simple things slowly until they become natural? What if you do not need to remember everything, only the most important things? What if you do not need to speak perfectly, only clearly and slowly? What if you do not need to listen to difficult stories, only stories that help you grow step by step? As you sit there, you watch the world outside the window and people are walking, cars are passing, life is moving around you, and you realize something powerful. Everyone you see outside is learning something, struggling with something, growing through something. You are not alone. Every human being begins as a slow learner. Even babies take months to say their first word. Even children take years to speak clearly. Learning is not supposed to be fast. Learning is supposed to be natural. So when you try to force yourself to learn quickly, you fight against your own nature. But when you relax, when you trust the process, when you repeat slowly, when you listen to simple English with a calm mind, your brain opens, your memory improves, and you begin to learn faster without pressure. At this moment in the story, you realize that learning faster is not about pushing yourself. It is about freeing yourself. And this realization is the turning point. This is the moment where your story begins to transform. You start to see learning not as a problem, but as a relationship. And like all relationships, it grows slowly, with patience, with kindness, with small steps, with gentle moments of understanding. You realize that you do not need to fight learning. You only need to walk with it. You only need to treat it like a friend, not an enemy. As the cafe becomes brighter with morning light, you decide to stand up and continue your walk. And as you step outside again, the air feels different. Your breath feels deeper. Your mind feels lighter. You begin to think about all the ways you can learn smarter, maybe by listening to simple English stories every day, maybe by speaking slowly and focusing on clarity, maybe by repeating small phrases many times until they feel natural, maybe by learning from your mistakes instead of fearing them. And as you walk, you imagine yourself learning English with a smile instead of stress. And in that moment, you feel something change inside you. It is soft, but it is real. It is the beginning of confidence. You continue walking, and as you move down the street, you begin reflecting on everything you have learned in this small journey. You realize that the biggest barrier to learning faster was never the content. It was your mindset. It was the pressure you put on yourself. And now that pressure is slowly dissolving, like a cloud moving away from the sun. The path becomes clearer. The steps become easier. And you feel ready to learn in a new way, a smarter way, a way that supports you, guides you, and lifts you up instead of pushing you down. And so, as we reach the end of this first section, let me leave you with a simple takeaway, a gentle thought you can carry with you. Learning does not begin with knowledge. Learning begins with a calm mind. When your mind is calm, everything becomes easier. When your mind is open, new ideas enter naturally. When your mind is relaxed, your memory improves. So the first step to learning faster and smarter is to breathe, to slow down, to trust yourself, and to remember that every small effort counts. You are already walking the path. You are already growing. And this story is only beginning. I want you to imagine the next part of our journey as if you are stepping into a new morning, a new chapter in your story, a chapter where your mind becomes clearer and your steps become lighter. Because today we explore something very important for learning faster and smarter, something many people never pay attention to, something simple but powerful, something I call slow focus. And as the story continues, I want you to imagine that you are walking into a quiet park early in the morning. The sun is rising, the light is soft and warm, and the air feels fresh against your skin. And as you walk deeper into the park, you begin to notice how peaceful everything feels. The birds are singing, the leaves are moving gently with the wind, and everything around you is slow and calm. And in this soft place, you begin to understand that learning does not grow in noise. Learning grows in calmness. Learning does not grow in stress. Learning grows in attention, and learning does not grow in rushing. Learning grows in slow focus. But of course, the mind is not always calm. And maybe your mind is often full of noise, full of thoughts, full of pressure, full of tasks you must do, full of words you forget, full of things you wish you knew, and this noise makes learning difficult. But today, as we walk through the park together, we explore how to reduce that noise, how to find focus, how to help your brain learn faster by slowing down your attention, not speeding it up. So imagine you sit on a wooden bench near a small lake inside the park, and the water is still, like a mirror, and when you look at the lake, you see a reflection, and in that moment, you think about your learning journey again. You think about how often you try to study while your mind is running everywhere. You think about all the times you looked at a page but did not remember anything. Now imagine you are still walking down that street and suddenly you see a small cafe on the corner. You enter. The place is empty, quiet, with warm light and soft music. You sit near the window, and you think about your learning journey. Here, inside this peaceful space, you begin to explore the idea of learning faster from a new angle. What if learning faster does not mean doing more? What if learning faster means doing less, but doing it better? What if learning smarter means repeating simple things slowly until they become natural? What if you do not need to remember everything, only the most important things? What if you do not need to speak perfectly, only clearly and slowly? What if you do not need to listen to difficult stories, only stories that help you grow step by step? As you sit there, you watch the world outside the window, and people are walking, cars are passing, life is moving around you, and you realize something powerful. Everyone you see outside is learning something, struggling with something, growing through something. You are not alone. Every human being begins as a slow learner. Even babies take months to say their first word. Even children take years to speak clearly. Learning is not supposed to be fast. Learning is supposed to be natural. So when you try to force yourself to learn quickly, you fight against your own nature. But when you relax, when you trust the process, when you repeat slowly, when you listen to simple English with a calm mind, your brain opens, your memory improves, and you begin to learn faster without pressure. At this moment in the story, you realize that learning faster is not about pushing yourself. It is about freeing yourself. And this realization is the turning point. This is the moment where your story begins to transform. You start to see learning not as a problem, but as a relationship. And like all relationships, it grows slowly, with patience, with kindness, with small steps, with gentle moments of understanding. You realize that you do not need to fight learning. You only need to walk with it. You only need to treat it like a friend, not an enemy. As the cafe becomes brighter with morning light, you decide to stand up and continue your walk. And as you step outside again, the air feels different. Your breath feels deeper. Your mind feels lighter. You begin to think about all the ways you can learn smarter, maybe by listening to simple English stories every day, maybe by speaking slowly and focusing on clarity, maybe by repeating small phrases many times until they feel natural. Maybe by learning from your mistakes instead of fearing them. And as you walk, you imagine yourself learning English with a smile instead of stress. And in that moment, you feel something change inside you. It is soft, but it is real. It is the beginning of confidence. You continue walking, and as you move down the street, you begin reflecting on everything you have learned in this small journey. You realize that the biggest barrier to learning faster was never the content. It was your mindset. It was the pressure you put on yourself. And now that pressure is slowly dissolving, like a cloud moving away from the sun. The path becomes clearer. The steps become easier. And you feel ready to learn in a new way, a smarter way, a way that supports you, guides you, and lifts you up instead of pushing you down. And so, as we reach the end of this first section, let me leave you with a simple takeaway, a gentle thought you can carry with you. Learning does not begin with knowledge. Learning begins with a calm mind. When your mind is calm, everything becomes easier. When your mind is open, new ideas enter naturally. When your mind is relaxed, your memory improves. So the first step to learning faster and smarter is to breathe, to slow down, to trust yourself, and to remember that every small effort counts. You are already walking the path. You are already growing. And this story is only beginning. I want you to imagine the next part of our journey as if you are stepping into a new morning, a new chapter in your story, a chapter where your mind becomes clearer and your steps become lighter. Because today we explore something very important for learning faster and smarter, something many people never pay attention to, something simple but powerful, something I call slow focus, and as the story continues, I want you to imagine that you are walking into a quiet park early in the morning. The sun is rising, the light is soft and warm, and the air feels fresh against your skin. And as you walk deeper into the park, you begin to notice how peaceful everything feels. The birds are singing, the leaves are moving gently with the wind, and everything around you is slow and calm. And in this soft place, you begin to understand that learning does not grow in noise. Learning grows in calmness. Learning does not grow in stress. Learning grows in attention, and learning does not grow in rushing. Learning grows in slow focus. But of course, the mind is not always calm, and maybe your mind is often full of noise, full of thoughts, full of pressure, full of tasks you must do, full of words you forget, full of things you wish you knew, and this noise makes learning difficult. But today, as we walk through the park together, we explore how to reduce that noise, how to find focus, how to help your brain learn faster by slowing down your attention, not speeding it up. So imagine you sit on a wooden bench near a small lake inside the park, and the water is still, like a mirror, and when you look at the lake, you see a reflection, and in that moment, you think about your learning journey again. You think about how often you try to study while your mind is running everywhere. You think about all the times you looked at a page but did not remember anything. You think about all the times you looked at a page but did not remember anything. You think about the moments you listened to English, but your mind was distracted, thinking about other things, worrying about something else, trying to do too many things at the same time. And here, on this quiet bench, you finally understand something important. You are not learning slowly because you are not smart. You were learning slowly because your attention was divided, your focus was thin like a small thread, and learning cannot grow when your mind is jumping from place to place. The mind learns best when it focuses on one simple thing, calmly, slowly, without pressure. Slow focus is like pouring warm water into cold soil. It helps ideas sink deeper, stay longer, and grow naturally. But of course, focus is not easy. The challenge begins when you try to sit down and learn, and suddenly your phone rings, or your thoughts wander, or you feel tired, or you feel bored, or you feel unsure, and little by little, the mind begins to escape the moment. This is normal. This happens to everyone. Even strong learners, even fast learners, even people who seem confident and perfect, they all fight with distraction. So you must not blame yourself when focus is difficult. You must understand that your mind is trying to protect you. It tries to escape when it feels stress or pressure. And that is why slow focus is so important. Slow focus tells your brain, it is okay. You are safe. You can stay here. You can concentrate. You can learn. And when your brain feels safe, it opens. It becomes calm. And in that calmness, learning becomes faster. So you sit on the bench and think, how can I practice slow focus? How can I train my mind to stay present? How can I learn English in a way that feels soft and enjoyable? And as you think about these questions, you notice a small child nearby trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. The child is slow, shaky, and sometimes afraid. The child keeps pressing the brakes too early, then letting go too fast, then wobbling left and right. The father is walking beside the child, holding the seat, telling the child to breathe, to stay calm, to look forward. And suddenly, you understand something powerful. The child needs slow focus, not speed. The moment the child tries to rush, the bicycle becomes unstable and the child loses balance. But when the child slows down, breathes, and pays attention to just one thing, the path in front, everything becomes easier. And that is exactly how your mind works when you learn. When you try to rush through English, when you try to learn 10 things in 5 minutes, when you try to memorize too many words at once, when you try to push yourself too hard, your mind begins to wobble, just like that bicycle. But when you slow down, when you listen to English with patience, when you repeat small sentences many times, when you focus on one idea at a time, you become stable. Your learning becomes smoother. Your memory becomes stronger. You begin to move forward without falling. As you watch the child ride slowly around the park, you begin to explore the idea of slow focus even deeper. You begin to imagine how different your learning experience would be if you stopped trying to study with pressure and started studying with presence. Imagine listening to one English sentence and giving yourself the full moment to understand it. Imagine reading one short paragraph and letting the meaning grow gently in your mind. Imagine speaking slowly, with clear words, without fear of mistakes, without feeling rushed. Imagine telling yourself, I have time. I can learn this. I do not need to hurry. This is the heart of slow focus. It is not about speed. It is about quality. It is about depth. It is about letting your mind breathe while you learn. As you continue to sit by the lake, you begin thinking about your old learning habits. Maybe you used to study with your phone next to you. Maybe you tried to watch a video while checking messages. Maybe you tried to read something while half thinking about something else. But today, in this story, you realize that these habits were not helping you. They were slowing you down. They were taking away your focus. And suddenly, you see a new possibility. If you bring your attention back home, if you bring your mind back to the moment, if you learn with full presence, you will learn twice as fast with half the effort. And this realization becomes stronger as you stand up from the bench and begin walking again. You walk toward a small path covered with trees on both sides, and as you step forward, you realize that each step you take is like a moment of learning, slow, gentle, one at a time. And then something interesting happens in your mind. You start remembering moments in your life when slow focus helped you. Maybe the first time you learned to cook something new, you moved slowly and carefully, and because of that, you did not make mistakes. Maybe the first time you learned to drive a car, you were focused and calm, and that helped you learn safely. Maybe the first time you learned a new skill, like drawing or playing a musical instrument, you moved slowly, and that slow pace helped you understand the basics. And now, in this quiet park, you see the truth. Slow focus is not new. You have used it before. You know it. Your mind understands it. You simply forgot to use it when learning languages. As you walk, you begin to understand that fast learning is not about doing more. It is about doing less, but doing it with real focus. It is about giving your mind time to connect ideas. It is about letting your brain repeat things naturally. It is about paying attention to one small moment, one small word, one small sound. And then, suddenly, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes clearer. Everything becomes faster. And so, this becomes your realization. Your mind does not need more pressure. Your mind needs more presence. And this realization changes everything. Imagine that as you continue walking along the tree-covered path, you begin to feel a wave of calmness inside your chest. You feel your breath slowing down. You feel your steps settling into a comfortable rhythm. You feel your mind returning to a place of quiet understanding. And in this calm state, You begin to appreciate something important. You do not need to chase English. You only need to welcome it. You do not need to force yourself to remember. You only need to focus calmly and let your brain absorb things at its own speed. You do not need to speak fast. You only need to speak clearly. And when you speak clearly, your confidence grows. When your confidence grows, your learning becomes faster. When your learning becomes faster, you feel motivated. And when you feel motivated, you show up again the next day. And this cycle becomes stronger and stronger. This transformation feels small at first, like a gentle shift inside you, but it is powerful. It is the moment where you stop fighting with learning and start working with it. It is the moment where you stop pushing your mind and start guiding your mind. It is the moment where you understand that slow focus is not the opposite of fast learning. Slow focus is the key to fast learning. As the story moves toward the end of this section, you continue walking until you reach a small bridge inside the park. You stop at the center of the bridge and look down at the water flowing below. The water is moving slowly, not rushing, not fighting, just flowing naturally. And you realize something simple but deep. Nature learns slowly. Nature grows slowly. Nature understands that strength comes from patience. A tree does not rush to grow. A river does not rush to move. The sun does not rush to rise. Everything grows with time. And so will you. This final reflection brings a soft peace to your heart. You breathe in. You breathe out. And as you stand on the bridge, you decide to carry one simple takeaway with you. When you focus slowly, you learn faster. When you give your mind time, your mind gives you understanding. When you remove pressure, your brain opens. And when you allow yourself to learn naturally, you begin to grow in a way that feels comfortable, joyful, and powerful. And with this calm truth in your heart, you step off the bridge and continue your journey, ready for the next chapter, ready to learn smarter, ready to grow with clarity and calmness, ready to build a new relationship with English, one slow, beautiful step at a time. I want you to imagine that the next part of our journey begins in the early evening, when the sky is slowly changing color, turning from bright blue into warm orange, soft pink, and gentle purple, and as you look up at this changing sky, you feel something quiet inside you, a feeling that tells you this moment is important. This moment is the beginning of a new understanding, because today, in this section of our story, we explore something that looks small on the outside, but is powerful on the inside. Something that takes no special talent, no special intelligence, no complex system, but something that can change your life and your learning forever. And this is the power of small daily steps. And as you listen, I want you to imagine that you are walking along a long, peaceful path that goes through a beautiful field, a place where the wind moves slowly across tall grass, a place where the light touches everything softly, a place where you feel safe to think and safe to grow. And as you walk, the idea of small daily steps begins to open inside your mind, like a flower unfolding its petals one by one. Because small daily steps are the real secret behind learning faster and smarter. Small daily steps do not feel heavy. Small daily steps do not scare the mind. Small daily steps build strength little by little in a way that feels natural and kind. And this is where our story takes you next. Now imagine that as you walk deeper into this field, you begin thinking about all the times you tried to learn English or any other skill in a big and intense way. Maybe you studied for 3 hours in one day and then felt tired and did nothing for a week. Maybe you watched a long video one day and then stopped for many days. Maybe you tried to memorize 50 words in one sitting and then forgot most of them within a few days. Many learners fall into this pattern. They push hard one day, but they cannot continue the next day because the mind becomes tired, the motivation disappears, the pressure grows, and learning becomes a mountain that feels too big to climb. But then, as you walk in this story, you slowly understand something. Learning is not about climbing a mountain in one day. Learning is about taking one small step every day. And these small steps, though they look tiny, are stronger than big, irregular efforts because they create consistency, and consistency is the quiet engine that builds real skill. But of course, the challenge begins when life becomes busy. You might have work, school, children, responsibilities, stress, or tiredness. You might feel like you do not have enough time to learn every day. You might think, how can I study daily when life is so full? And that is when the mind begins to feel confused. But this is exactly where the magic of small steps appears. Small steps do not require 1 hour. They do not require 30 minutes. They do not even require 10 minutes. Sometimes, a small step can be 1 minute of listening, 1 minute of reading, 1 minute of speaking, 1 minute of repeating a phrase, 1 minute of noticing a new word, 1 minute of paying attention to a sound, 1 minute of breathing calmly while you listen to English. And these tiny steps, when done every day, become stronger than a big step done once in a while. As you walk through the field, you notice a narrow dirt path under your feet. It looks soft, almost invisible, and you realize that this tiny path was created by many people walking the same small steps again and again. The path was not created by one giant step. The path was created by consistency. And in that moment, you begin to explore how powerful this idea is when learning English. Imagine if you listened to simple English stories every day for just a few minutes. Imagine if you read a small paragraph every day. Imagine if you practiced one small conversation in your mind each morning. Imagine if you spoke one slow, clear sentence to yourself each evening. These tiny actions would build a strong path in your brain, a path that becomes deeper each day. And the deeper the path becomes, the easier learning becomes, and the faster new information enters your mind. You continue exploring this idea, and as you walk, you come across an old wooden fence that separates the field from a small garden. The fence is simple, but it tells a story. Each piece of wood in the fence was placed one at a time. No one built the fence in 1 hour. The fence was built through small, steady steps. And you realize something important. Small daily steps build structure in your mind. They strengthen memory. They strengthen confidence. They strengthen understanding. And they do this gently, without pressure. A big step may impress you for one moment, but a small step every day will transform you for the rest of your life. You step into the garden, and inside it, you see rows of small plants, each one young, each one growing slowly. And as you look at these plants, you understand something about learning. Growth is never instant. Growth takes time. Growth happens quietly. You do not see the plant growing every second, but you know that it grows. And your learning is exactly the same. You may not see the improvement every day, but if you take small steps daily, you're growing. You're learning faster. You're becoming smarter in the way you learn. You are building a strong foundation inside your mind. And just like the plants, you only need small amounts of water each day, small moments of attention, small drops of effort. That is enough. More than enough. As you stand in the garden, you begin thinking about how small daily steps can feel easier and more enjoyable than big study sessions. Small steps feel light. They do not create stress. They do not make you tired. They make learning feel like a natural part of your day, like brushing your teeth, like taking a short walk, like drinking a cup of tea. When learning becomes small and simple, it becomes something you can continue every day. And when you continue every day, your progress becomes stronger than you ever imagined. But of course, the challenge also includes the voice inside your mind that says, "This is too small to matter. This is not enough. I need to do more." Many learners feel this pressure, but this voice is wrong. Science shows that small, repeated practice creates stronger memory than long, heavy study. The brain loves repetition. The brain loves small bursts of focus. The brain remembers more when learning feels calm. So when you take a small step, you are not doing less. You are doing something powerful. You walk farther into the garden until you reach a small wooden table. On the table, there is a single notebook. You open it, and inside you see simple, short notes written by someone else. Each page contains a tiny step, one new word, one short phrase, one simple sentence, one small thought. The notes look almost too small to matter, but page after page, they become a story, a journey, a record of growth. And you realize that your learning journey can be like this notebook. You do not need to fill the page with many things. You only need to add something small every day. And then, in this soft evening light, something shifts inside you. You begin to realize that small daily steps are not just a method for learning, they are a way of living. They help you grow in any skill, in any area of life. Small steps create habits. Habits create change. Change creates confidence. And confidence makes learning faster, easier, and more joyful. Now imagine that you pick up the notebook and write your own small step for today. Maybe you write a simple English sentence like, "I am learning every day," or "Small steps make me stronger," or "I am getting better slowly." And as you write, you feel a gentle pride in your heart. You realize that this small action is already helping you learn smarter. You are already doing it. You are already on your path. As you leave the garden and walk back into the open field, you take a deep breath and feel the evening air fill your lungs. The sky is now darker and the first stars begin to appear. You look at these tiny stars and notice something beautiful. Each star is small, but together they make the night sky bright. And you realize that your small daily steps are just like these stars. Each step is small, but together they create something bright, something strong, something that guides you, something that makes your learning journey shine. This becomes your realization. You do not need to learn everything today. You only need to learn something today. One small thing, one step, one moment. And if you repeat this day after day, you will become powerful in your learning. As the story moves toward its reflection, you begin walking back along the path, and you think about everything you have discovered in this section. You understand that small steps do not feel big at first, but they grow quietly inside your mind. You understand that daily practice does not need to be long. It only needs to be consistent. You understand that repetition makes learning stronger. And you understand that kindness toward yourself makes learning easier. So your takeaway becomes clear, soft, and simple. Small daily steps create big progress. Not tomorrow, not next week, but over time. And time is your friend. Time will help you grow. Time will reward your small efforts. Time will turn your small steps into natural skill. And with this gentle truth warming your heart, you continue walking into the night, ready for the next part of your journey, ready to learn in a way that feels human and peaceful, ready to build your English day by day, step by step, small and strong. I want you to imagine that the next part of our journey begins not in the morning and not in the evening, but right in the middle of the day, when the sun is high, the light is bright, and everything around you feels full of energy. And as you step into this part of the story, the air feels warm and clear, and you feel ready for a new kind of understanding, a deeper kind of learning, because today we explore something many people never think about, something that can change the way you learn forever, something I call your learning rhythm, the natural speed and pattern inside you that helps you understand things in your own way, in your own time, and in your own style. And as you listen, I want you to imagine that you are walking into a wide, open courtyard, a place with stone paths, tall trees, and long shadows, a place where the sound of the wind, the birds, and your own footsteps create a gentle rhythm around you. And this rhythm begins to guide your mind toward a new idea, that learning is not only about what you study, but when and how you study, because every person has a different learning rhythm, and when you find your rhythm, everything becomes easier, clearer, and faster. As you walk deeper into this courtyard, you begin thinking about your past learning experiences. Maybe you tried studying early in the morning, but your mind felt slow and sleepy. Maybe you tried studying late at night, but you felt tired and distracted. Maybe you tried learning after work, but your brain was too full of the day's stress. Maybe you tried learning during busy hours, and everything felt confusing. And as you think about these moments, you begin to understand something important. There is no perfect time to learn. There is only your time. And your time is different from someone else's. Some people learn best in the morning. Some people learn best at night. Some people learn best during quiet afternoons. Some people learn in short bursts. Some people learn in long, calm sessions. Some people learn by listening. Some by reading. Some by speaking. Some by watching. And you begin to realize that learning faster and smarter is not about copying someone else's method. It is about discovering your own rhythm. But of course, the challenge begins when you do not know your rhythm. Many learners think they must follow the same schedule as others. They think they must study at certain times, or follow a strict routine, or use the same habits that successful people use. But learning is not a rule. Learning is a relationship, and every relationship is unique. So as you walk across the courtyard, you begin to explore what your own rhythm might be, and this exploration begins with simple questions. When do you feel most awake? When do you feel most calm? When do you feel most open to new ideas? When does English feel easy for you? When does it feel natural? Asking these questions does not require pressure. They only require awareness, a soft attention to your own feelings. As you continue walking, you see a small fountain in the center of the courtyard. The water rises, falls, falls again and again, always in the same pattern, always in its own rhythm. And when you watch this simple movement, you feel something inside you becoming quieter, calmer, more aware. You begin to understand that your mind also has rhythms, moments when the brain is open, moments when the brain is closed, moments when the brain wants silence, and moments when the brain wants activity. And you realize that learning is easiest when your rhythm and your study time match each other. You sit on the edge of the fountain and close your eyes, and as you listen to the sound of the water, you begin to reflect on your own learning life. Maybe you remember times when learning felt easy and enjoyable, and you ask yourself, What time was it? What was the situation? What was the environment? Maybe you remember times when learning felt impossible, and again, you ask, what time was it? What was happening around me? What was happening inside me? And slowly, softly, things begin to make sense. You begin to see a pattern. You begin to see that your learning rhythm has been speaking to you all along, but maybe you were too busy, too stressed, or too distracted to hear it. Now imagine opening your eyes and looking at the sunlight moving across the courtyard. You notice that the shadows change slowly, naturally, without rushing. And you realize something powerful. Learning also changes slowly, naturally, without rushing. Your brain needs time to rest. It needs time to absorb. It needs time to review. You cannot force learning. You can only support it. And when you respect your rhythm, learning becomes smoother. You remember more. You understand deeper. You grow faster. You decide to stand up and walk again, and as you move along the stone path, you begin to explore another part of this idea, your energy. Every learner has different energy levels throughout the day. Sometimes you feel full of energy. Sometimes you feel low. Sometimes you feel focused. Sometimes you feel scattered. And your energy affects how well you learn. So you start paying attention to your body. When do you feel awake? When does your mind feel heavy? When does your heart feel open? When does your concentration feel strong? When you start noticing these things, you begin learning smarter. As the story moves deeper, you walk toward a row of tall trees that stand like quiet guardians on each side of the path. Their branches move gently with the wind, and their shadows dance softly on the ground. And as you walk under them, you realize that even trees follow rhythms. They open their leaves in the morning. They rest at night. They grow slowly through the seasons. They lose their leaves in the fall and regrow them in the spring. Nature always follows rhythm. And you are part of nature. So your learning must also follow a rhythm. You reach the end of the tree path and find an old stone bench. You sit down and look around, and everything feels still and peaceful. This stillness helps you explore something more personal, your emotional rhythm. Some days you feel confident. Some days you feel unsure. Some days you feel excited. Some days you feel tired. And these emotions affect how you learn. If you feel stressed, your brain closes. If you feel calm, your brain opens. If you feel afraid of mistakes, your brain becomes tense. If you feel safe to try, your brain becomes flexible. So the emotional rhythm is just as important as the time rhythm or the energy rhythm. Sitting there, you begin to understand that learning faster and smarter is about listening to yourself. It is about knowing when to push gently and when to rest. It is about knowing when to learn new information and when to review old information. It is about knowing when to practice speaking and when to focus on listening. It is about knowing when your mind needs silence and when your mind is ready for new ideas. This awareness makes learning a dance instead of a battle. And when learning becomes a dance, you enjoy it more. Your steps become smoother. Your progress becomes faster. As you sit on the bench, you think about times in your life when you forced yourself to learn at the wrong time. Maybe you studied when you were tired. Maybe you practiced speaking when you were stressed. Maybe you tried to memorize words when your mind was full of other things. And you see clearly now why it felt difficult. You were fighting against your rhythm. And learning is not meant to be a fight. Learning is meant to be a flow. So you take a deep breath, and with that breath, you feel something shift inside your heart. You feel a soft acceptance, a gentle understanding that you do not need to be perfect. You only need to be aware. You only need to notice yourself. You only need to understand what works for you. And you begin to see that your learning rhythm is not a weakness. It is a guide. It shows you the best path. And if you follow it, you will learn faster than you ever thought possible. You stand up again, ready to explore more, and as you walk toward the far end of the courtyard, you come across a small wooden door. You push it open and step into a quiet library filled with warm light and shelves of old books. The air smells like paper and time. And as you walk through the library, you notice that each book was written by someone who followed their own rhythm. Some wrote slowly. Some wrote quickly. Some wrote during the morning. Some wrote late at night. And every book became a story because its writer trusted their rhythm. You sit at a wooden table inside the library, and you imagine yourself learning English in a way that matches your rhythm beautifully. Imagine listening to English stories when your mind is clear. Imagine practicing speaking when your confidence feels alive. Imagine reading when your energy is calm. Imagine reviewing when your focus feels strong. This simple alignment will change everything. You will remember better. You will understand faster. You will feel more motivated. Learning will feel natural instead of forced. This realization becomes your transformation. The moment you stop trying to be like everyone else. The moment you begin learning in a way that fits you. The moment you trust your own rhythm. This moment is powerful. It marks a new chapter in your learning life. And as you stand up from the table and walk toward the exit of the library, you look back and see the warm light on the wooden shelves, and you feel gratitude. Gratitude for understanding yourself more. Gratitude for growing. Gratitude for becoming wiser in your learning journey. You step outside, and the sunlight welcomes you again, soft and warm. Now you begin reflecting on everything you discovered. You understand that you do not need to copy other learners. You understand that your rhythm is unique. You understand that your natural timing is not a mistake, it is a strength. You understand that when you follow your rhythm, learning becomes smoother, easier, and faster. And you understand that learning is not about doing more. It is about doing things at the right time, in the right way, with the right mind. So your takeaway from this section is simple, soft, and powerful. Learning becomes faster when you follow your rhythm. Trust your energy. Trust your timing. Listen to your mind. Respect your emotions. Honor your natural way of learning. When you do this, English becomes easier. Understanding becomes deeper. Speaking becomes clearer. And you become the kind of learner who grows with confidence, peace, and joy. And with this truth glowing inside you, you walk forward, ready for the next part of your journey, ready to learn smarter, ready to grow with rhythm, ready to continue the story that is slowly transforming you from the inside out. I want you to imagine that the next part of our journey begins on a warm, quiet afternoon, the kind of afternoon where the light feels soft, the air feels gentle, and time feels slower. And as you walk into this moment in the story, you feel a new kind of energy inside you, something light and natural. Something that feels like the beginning of a question, because today we explore the power of curiosity, the quiet magic that makes learning faster, easier, and more joyful. And as you listen to my voice, I want you to imagine that you are walking along a small stone path that leads you to an old museum at the edge of a peaceful town, and this museum is not loud or crowded. It is calm, still, a place filled with stories, a place filled with secrets, a place filled with things that make you wonder. And when you step inside, the cool air touches your face and you smell the soft scent of old wood and history. And in this moment, you feel your mind opening, not because someone told you to learn, not because you must learn, but because you want to understand. because something inside you is awake, curious, ready to explore, ready to learn without pressure. Curiosity is the spark that makes learning natural, and as you walk deeper into the museum, you begin to understand that curiosity is not about being intelligent. Curiosity is about being open, open to new ideas, open to new questions, open to new stories, open to new words, open to new sounds, and as you continue walking, you notice how curiosity makes the mind lighter, softer, more alive. Now imagine entering the first room of the museum, where the walls are covered with old photographs of people from many different places and many different times, and as you walk past each picture, you find yourself wondering who these people were, what their lives were like, what made them happy, what made them sad, what they dreamed about, and in this simple moment of wondering, you feel something moving inside your mind, something warm, something curious, and you begin to understand that. Curiosity is not work. Curiosity is a natural human feeling, and when curiosity is present, learning becomes easy, because your brain opens like a window letting fresh air in. You think back to moments in your life when learning felt hard, heavy, boring, and you realize that in those moments, curiosity was absent. You were studying because you felt you had to, not because you wanted to. And then you think about moments when learning felt exciting, when you discovered something new, when you asked questions, when you explored something that interested you, and you realized that curiosity was the energy behind those moments. And suddenly you understand something powerful. Curiosity is the fuel of fast learning. But the challenge appears when life becomes routine. Many people stop being curious because they feel tired or busy or stressed or afraid of mistakes. Many learners think they must memorize things without feeling anything, without interest, without joy, and this makes learning slow. When the mind is not curious, the mind closes. When the mind closes, learning becomes heavy. So as you walk through the museum, you begin exploring how curiosity can return, how curiosity can light your mind again, how curiosity can make English learning feel fun instead of difficult. You notice a small display in the center of the room, a glass box holding a simple, old notebook. The pages are yellow, the ink is faded, but something about it makes you stop. You feel drawn to it. You want to know who wrote it, what stories it contains, how old it is. And in that moment, curiosity is alive in you again. It is small, but it is alive. You feel that soft question inside your heart, what is this? And that simple question pulls your attention forward, making you want to learn more. This is how curiosity works. It pulls you forward gently, without pressure, without stress. You walk into the next room, where you find a collection of maps from different parts of the world. Some maps are new, some are ancient, some are colorful, some are simple black lines, but every map tells a story. You stop in front of one map and begin tracing the lines with your eyes, following the shapes of rivers, mountains, oceans, and cities, and as you do, you feel a small spark of curiosity again. You begin asking yourself where these places are, what languages people speak there, what their culture is like, what their daily life looks like, and suddenly your mind is full of questions. And you realize that these questions make learning feel alive. You begin imagining that English can be like this map. Instead of trying to memorize everything, you can explore it with curiosity. You can ask, why is this word used here? How does this sentence feel? Why does this sound different? What does this expression mean? Where does this phrase come from? When you ask questions, you learn faster. When you ask questions, your brain becomes active. When your brain becomes active, memory becomes stronger. You continue walking deeper into the museum until you reach a long hallway with glass windows on both sides. The sunlight shines through and fills the hallway with a warm glow. You walk slowly, looking at the different objects in the displays: an old compass, a broken violin, a letter written by hand, a small statue, a worn-out hat. Each object feels like a doorway into a new world. Each object makes you wonder something small. And as you walk, you begin to understand that curiosity is not a big emotion. It is a small, gentle feeling that grows quietly. Curiosity does not yell. It whispers. And when you learn English with curiosity, everything becomes easier. Because you are not forcing yourself to study, you are following your natural questions. You reach the end of the hallway and enter a quiet room with a single wooden table in the center. On the table sits an old magnifying glass. You pick it up and look at the wood grain on the table. The lines become larger. You see details you never noticed before. And this becomes a symbol in your mind. Curiosity is the magnifying glass of learning. When you are curious, you see details you never saw before. You notice the shape of a word, the sound of a sentence, the rhythm of speech. You begin to hear English differently. You begin to understand why people speak the way they do. You begin to enjoy the small beauty of the language. And at this moment, a realization grows inside you. The more curious you become, the faster you learn, not because you are studying harder, but because you are paying deeper attention. Now imagine stepping outside the museum into the warm afternoon light. The air feels fresh and your mind feels awake. You walk down a small hill behind the museum and find yourself in a quiet garden full of flowers. The colors are bright, the wind is soft, and the sound of birds fills the air. You walk slowly through the garden, and each flower makes you wonder something small. Some flowers are tall, some are short, some are bright red, some are pale yellow, and you begin to notice details you never noticed before. And as you observe, you realize that curiosity is the art of noticing. Many learners do not improve because they are not noticing. They listen, but their mind is not awake. They read, but their eyes move too fast. They speak, but they do not listen to themselves. But curiosity wakes you up. Curiosity makes you notice. Curiosity makes you ask, why is this like that? And how does this work? And what happens if I try this? And every time you ask a question, your brain creates a new connection. As you continue through the garden, you stop near a small wooden bench and sit down. You close your eyes and begin thinking about your English learning journey. Maybe there were times when you felt bored. Maybe there were times when you felt stuck. Maybe there were times when you felt like nothing was improving. But now, sitting in this peaceful garden, you realize that boredom is not a problem, it is a message. Boredom tells you that curiosity is missing. And when curiosity is missing, you can bring it back by simply asking one question. What is interesting about this? Even the simplest English sentence becomes meaningful when you look at it with curiosity. You begin to see patterns, connections, and details. And this new perspective transforms your learning experience. You open your eyes and begin walking again, exploring the deeper part of the garden, where you find a small pond with clear water. You kneel beside it and look at your reflection. The water moves slightly with the wind, and your reflection shifts, and you realize something important. Curiosity changes how you see yourself as a learner. Without curiosity, you may see yourself as slow, weak, or confused. But with curiosity, You begin to see yourself as a discoverer and explorer, someone who enjoys learning, someone who grows naturally, someone who learns with excitement instead of fear. Curiosity takes away the pressure. Curiosity takes away the fear of mistakes. Curiosity makes mistakes feel interesting instead of embarrassing. When you make a mistake, you can say, "Why did that happen? What can I learn from it?" And suddenly, the mistake becomes a lesson, not a problem. This becomes your transformation moment in this section. You begin to see that curiosity is not something you must wait for. It is something you can create. You can create curiosity by slowing down. You can create curiosity by asking questions. You can create curiosity by exploring instead of memorizing. And once curiosity is alive, your learning becomes faster because your brain pays attention naturally. As the story moves toward reflection, you stand up and begin walking back toward the museum path. The sun is lower now and the light is turning golden. You think about everything you discovered. Curiosity makes your mind open. Curiosity makes learning enjoyable. Curiosity makes memory stronger. Curiosity makes you brave. Curiosity makes learning natural. You understand that you do not need to force yourself to be curious. You only need to invite curiosity into your learning. Even small curiosity is powerful. And so, your takeaway becomes soft, simple, and strong. Curiosity is the key that unlocks fast learning. When you are curious, you learn without effort. When you are curious, you notice details. When you are curious, you grow faster. And when you are curious, English becomes not just a subject, but a world you want to explore. And with this new truth warming your heart, you walk forward, ready for the next chapter of your journey, ready to learn smarter, ready to see every English word with new eyes, ready to continue growing with curiosity as your guide. I want you to imagine that the next part of our journey begins at the edge of a quiet lake just before sunset, a moment when the world feels soft and the sky glows with warm colors. And as you step into this moment, you feel something gentle inside you, as if your heart is preparing to learn something important, because today we explore the mindset of a smart learner, the inner attitude that makes learning faster, stronger, and easier. And as you listen to this story, I want you to imagine sitting on a wooden dock that stretches out over the calm water, your feet hanging freely, the surface of the lake reflecting the sky like a mirror, and in this peaceful place, you begin to understand that learning does not begin with books or videos or lessons. Learning begins with your mindset, the way you think about learning, the way you feel about challenges, the way you talk to yourself when something is difficult, and this mindset can either open the door to fast learning or close it. So as you breathe slowly and feel the warm air on your skin, you realize that the first step to becoming a smart learner is becoming aware of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your feelings, because learning is not only about information. Learning is about the relationship you have with yourself. You sit quietly on the dock and remember times in your life when learning felt heavy or impossible, and you realize that in those moments, the problem was not your intelligence, the problem was your mindset. Maybe you thought, "I am slow," or "this is too hard," or "I will never understand," and these thoughts made learning harder, not because they were true, but because they created fear, pressure, and resistance inside your mind. And then you remember moments when learning felt exciting, easy, or natural, and in those moments, your mindset was different. You believed you could grow. You believed you could improve. You believed you could learn. And because you believed it, your mind opened, your confidence grew, and learning became smoother. And now, sitting by the lake, you understand something simple but powerful. The smartest learners are not the ones with the highest intelligence. They are the ones with the strongest mindset. But the challenge arrives the moment you start learning something new. The mind becomes nervous. The mind becomes afraid of mistakes. The mind becomes worried about how long it will take. The mind becomes uncomfortable with the unknown. This is normal. Every learner feels this. Every learner fights this. Even people who seem confident struggle with doubt inside. And so, the challenge of mindset is not to remove fear, but to learn how to walk with fear, how to learn even when things feel difficult, how to talk to yourself in a way that supports you, not hurts you. You sit on the dock and listen to the soft sound of the water touching the wood below you, and in this peaceful sound, you begin exploring the idea of a smart learning mindset more deeply. A smart learner does not say, "I must be perfect." A smart learner says, "I will try." A smart learner does not say, "I am bad at this." A smart learner says, "I am learning." A smart learner does not say, "I made a mistake. I should stop." A smart learner says, "I made a mistake. What can I learn from it?" And as you think about these simple differences, you realize how much power they have. They change your energy. They change your confidence. They change your speed of learning. When you replace negative thoughts with gentle, encouraging thoughts, you create a soft space inside your mind where learning feels safe. And when learning feels safe, your brain opens, your memory improves, and your progress becomes faster. You stand up from the dock and walk toward a small path that circles the lake. The sky is now deeper in color, shifting from gold to soft purple. You walk slowly, listening to the birds in the trees, feeling the ground under your feet, and you begin exploring another part of the smart learner mindset: patience. Many learners want results quickly. They want to speak fluently in 1 month. They want to understand everything immediately. They want to memorize many words fast. But learning does not grow with impatience. Learning grows with patience, the kind of patience that says, "I will show up today. I will show up tomorrow. I will show up next week. I will show up even when I am tired. I will show up even when progress feels small." Patience is not about waiting for results. Patience is about continuing without giving up. And when you continue, step by step, day by day, something magical happens. Your small efforts become big results. As you walk along the path, you notice a cluster of stones near the water. Each stone is round, smooth, and shaped by time. You pick one up and realize that this stone became smooth not because of one big wave, but because of many small waves touching it slowly, gently, again and again. And this becomes a symbol in your mind. A smart learner does not depend on one big moment. A smart learner depends on many small, daily moments. Each moment changes the mind a little. Each moment shapes understanding a little. Each moment smooths the rough edges of confusion, until one day, everything becomes clear. This understanding gives you a deep sense of peace. You realize you do not need to rush. You only need to continue. You continue walking until you reach a small wooden bridge crossing a narrow part of the lake. You stop at the center of the bridge and watch the ripples on the water below. The ripples move outward from a single point, spreading wider and wider until they touch everything. And you realize that this is how mindset affects your learning. One small thought becomes many thoughts. One small doubt becomes many doubts. One small fear becomes many fears. But the opposite is also true. One small positive thought becomes many positive thoughts. One gentle belief becomes many strong beliefs. One moment of courage becomes many moments of confidence. And so, you understand that strengthening your mindset is one of the most important things you can do as a learner. You continue exploring and think about how a smart learner reacts to difficulties. A smart learner does not panic when something is confusing. A smart learner becomes curious. A smart learner does not say, "I cannot do this." A smart learner says, "I cannot do this yet." That one small word, yet, changes everything. It opens the future. It gives you space to grow. It gives you time to improve. And in that time, learning becomes possible. You begin feeling this shift inside you. You begin to feel lighter, stronger, calmer, more open. Your mindset is already changing as you walk through this story. Now imagine that you walk to the far end of the lake where tall grass sways slowly with the wind. You sit in the grass, feeling the softness beneath you, and look at the calm water stretching out in front of you. In this stillness, you begin to realize something even deeper. A smart learner is kind to themselves. Many learners speak to themselves in harsh, unfriendly ways. They say, "I am stupid. I am slow. I always forget. I am not good enough." But a smart learner talks to themselves like a friend, not an enemy. They say, "I am learning. I am improving. I am trying. I am doing my best." Kindness does not make you weak. Kindness makes you strong. Kindness gives you the emotional safety to continue learning, even when you make mistakes. And this emotional safety is what keeps you consistent. And consistency is what makes you learn faster. As the sky begins to darken and the first stars appear, you stand up and take a slow, deep breath. You feel a quiet strength rising inside your chest. You realize that being a smart learner is not about knowing everything. It is about being gentle with yourself. It is about being patient with your progress. It is about being curious instead of afraid. It is about believing that you can learn, even when it feels difficult. It is about trusting your journey, your timing, your path. And now, as the story of this section begins to close, you walk back toward the dock where you began. You think about everything you learned in this chapter, the importance of your thoughts, the power of your beliefs, the strength that comes from patience, the courage that grows from curiosity, the calmness that grows from self-kindness. You see that you have the ability to shape your mindset, to shift your attitude, to create a learning environment inside your mind that helps you grow every day. So your takeaway from this section is simple, warm, and strong. The mindset of a smart learner is a mindset of patience, curiosity, kindness, and belief. When your mind is gentle, open, and steady, you learn faster. You learn deeper. You learn with joy instead of pressure. And this mindset will carry you forward into the next part of your journey, helping you grow step by step, moment by moment, day by day. And with this peaceful truth inside your heart, you step away from the lake and continue your journey, ready for the next chapter, ready to learn smarter, ready to grow with a strong, calm, and confident mind. Thank you so much for joining today's lesson here at JBC English Learning Academy. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to learn next. Your support helps the channel grow and helps me create more lessons for you. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next class.